Hey, when we did the original episode showing this rear hydraulic solution from Summit Hydraulics, I put out an opportunity for folks. I said, you can come over to our house and we will do a video installing it. And very quickly, I got 2 responses. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to install this hydraulic solution on 2 different tractors. One's a 1023E, one's a 1025R. Been a lot of questions about how easy it is to install or difficult it is to install, and some people wanted just a little bit of guidance, so we're going to do that today. Let's get started. Ryan, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit about your tractor.
It's a 2018 1025R. Had it about a year.
33 hours on it. 33 hours. You can tell you don't use it for mowing.
No, I don't use it for mowing. I use it for maintenance of our driveway, projects around the house. We built a gazebo, some patio areas, getting ready to build a pole barn, so we're going to do all the ground clearing with it. Help out family, doing some tilling, that kind of stuff.
Where do you live?
I live in Franklin, so I'm just south of Indianapolis. I'm about 50 minutes south of you.
Okay, not that far away. Now, what are you going to use your rear hydraulic kit? How are you going to use it?
So the primary focus of why I want this is to be able to put a hydraulic top link on my 3-point and get away from that like corkscrew style where you got to keep adjusting. And I use my box blade a lot for maintenance of my driveway. And you're constantly trying to go between where you want to be able to cut in and where you want to be able to just smooth out. Yep. And that takes a lot of time to try to get it adjusted. The other thing is that I'm really looking forward to being able to put a third function on the front and get a grapple. So I'm hoping that this will be able to get me to that point where I'll be able to use that other valve for that.
Yeah, now it is our plan. We're coming soon with this on a way to use one of these rear valves to route it all the way up to the front with a third function kit. We don't have that fully perfected yet. We've got a couple more parts that we're getting designed, but we're close to that.
I'll be standing by.
Okay, Kirk, how about you? You traveled a long way to be here.
Came from Paragould, Arkansas. It's about 7.5 hours away.
Oh my goodness. Tell me about your tractor.
I've got a 2014 1023E. It's got a few more hours on it than Ryan's, about 420 something. It is a mowing tractor for me, in addition to everything else pretty much that Ryan mentioned. I use a box blade a lot. I have a 4-foot rotary cutter, landscape rake. I also have a small disc that I use in the garden, so it just gets used a lot.
Which rear SCV kit did you choose? 2, 3, or 4?
I chose the 3 valve kit for mine, and for much the same reasons as Ryan's. I would say the hydraulic top link, the ability to add a grapple in the future, but that third one for me was also to be able to route my hydraulic mower lift option from under the tractor where it plugs into one of the loader SCVs to permanently kind of mount it in the back to kind of eliminate that extra step of having to unhook that hose each time I take the loader on and off or remove the mower, that sort of thing. So it kind of, in a way, will give me a different form of an independent hydraulic lift.
Yeah, I think it should work well for that. It'll be an interesting test to make sure that we can do that, because that'd be yet another use for this particular solution. You haven't seen these videos quite in the same order that we're going to be publishing them, so Ryan and Kirk and I have already been working all morning and a lot of the afternoon installing the Power Beyond kit, because that was one of the rules we had. So what we're starting with here today is 2 tractors that have the Power Beyond kit installed, and we almost put everything back together with that installed, but we left just a few of the small pieces off that we thought we needed to take apart here. So we're not starting totally from a tractor that's been worked. We've already got a tire off the side. I don't think we would need to take the rear tire off, but since we had it off, we decided it might be a little bit easier. Okay, we're gonna do both of these at the same time. Each guy's gonna put their own parts together, and we'll just kind of watch over your shoulders and see what's going on. The way they direct us to start is to put the valves and some of the other fittings on this aluminum block, and to do that here on our workbench rather than after we have it on the tractor. So we'll try that approach. Maybe we'll make this a competition. it's not really a fair competition. Ryan's only got a 2 valve.
That's right.
Whereas Kirk's got 3. So Kirk, you've got a disadvantage starting out.
I do. So Tim, these yellow things, do they stay in there?
I'm glad you asked that because a lot of folks are having questions about it. No, these yellow things come out.
Okay.
And then this little piece of cardboard here is just a protector.
Ah, okay.
It's not like a gasket or something. So use your handy pliers and just pull those right out. I had a little trouble with mine too.
Hey, there you go.
Now we do want to be as careful as we can with this surface, right? So that cardboard is there to protect it. And so when we're pulling those out, we do want to be as careful as we can. This is going to be a steel on steel mount here, right? Or a steel on aluminum. It's all flat face except for these O-rings.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to be as careful as we can. Likewise, when we finally turn these over and put these on here, we want to make sure that we set it good and flat on there.
I am installing the number 6 SAE plug into the GA port on the front of the valve per number 3 in the instruction manual.
So you've got these longer couplers here. They sent you 2 of the short ones and 2 of the long ones, right?
Yep.
And you need these longer ones next to the valve side. These valves kind of interfere with the couplers if they're use these shorter couplers. So it actually turns out to be kind of a feature that these will be offset just a little bit.
That's got to help in being able to install and take off the cables too.
Yeah,
the
it actually works a little bit better. But that's why that is the case. So I just I run this larger nut all the way back and then put them in. And I usually go all the way down with that. And then I just kind of tighten that on up. That way it gets it as close as it can. Right. I mean, you could get it even further away, but I didn't want it any further than it had to be.
Okay.
Doc Brown and Kirk here from the future saying that we need to make sure that we put these dust caps on before we put the couplers on. Okay? We're going to have trouble putting them on afterwards. So you do it before you put the couplers on. Now, since these are O-ring fittings, we won't have to tighten them really tight. I mean, we want to get them good and snug, but the O-ring should take care of us as far as leakage. And to double check your work, you can see that these couplers are a little bit higher, and that should be on the valve side. So it looks to me like you got them right. This is one of the things I really like about this solution, and I like about Summit in general. They really focus on using these O-ring fittings. And O-ring fittings are more expensive than pipe thread fittings. They're much easier to assemble. But more importantly, they don't leak. You don't have to get them nearly as tight to keep them from leaking.
I may have been better to tighten as I installed instead of installing them all finger tight and then coming back. But
yeah, it would have been good to have tightened as you went. So that's good advice for the next guy. Put one on and tighten it all the way, and then do the next one.
Now the other ones are just you can still do it, but they're just a little bit in the way and gives you less range of motion with your wrench.
Yep. Okay, so let's review what we've got here. The valves need to be on the inside, right? So the tractor's going to be facing that way. The valves need to be on the inside. The ROPS mount will be out here. The larger couplers here, the longer couplers, need to be on the valve side. And then we need our holes open on the bottom. So I believe we're in good shape there. And the instructions don't do a good job of really laying this out for us. It's a little bit difficult from the way it's described in the instructions. So, but these are the key points. The further extended couplers need to be on the valve side. The valves are going to be on the inside, so that means we have to have this set so that the front of the tractor is that way, and we want our open holes on the bottom. I think that should help people get the orientation right. Kirk, so I did something different than the directions said. If you hook it up the way the directions say, you're going to have your electric cables running in here from the outside. And I just thought that was a little more cumbersome. And so what I did was take off these ends here. There's an O-ring on there. And I just turned this around like this and put the O-ring back on.
Okay. Now the cable's on the inside.
Yep, and now the connector goes on the inside. So make sure you don't lose that O-ring when you do it. And again, I really don't know how tight these have to be, but I noticed that you can have them, I believe, where these will turn a little bit. But so then your connectors can face the inside, and I just think they're more protected like this.
Makes sense.
Okay, so you're facing the front of the tractor. The longer couplers are on the right, on the valve side. The valves are on the right, or the inside if we're going to mount it on the left. The holes are on the bottom. So it looks to me like you've got it the proper orientation.
We're on our way.
Match up the pinhole side with the P.
Yep, that's what we've got.
So this is a 5/32, Alan.
Okay.
And you've got them all started, right?
Mm-hmm. I'll just kind of drop them
So
in.
I've set, the only reason I've got a torque wrench out is because I've had some leakage issues and I kept tightening them at one point and eventually broke one.
Okay.
So for our audience, I broke one at 92 inch-pounds. So that's too much. So I suggest that we go somewhere around 60 inch-pounds.
Okay.
And what I've done here is I've set it to 40 right now, and I would take them all to 40. Now,
And
you've
come
used
back.
torque wrench before, right?
Yes, sir.
I'd take them all to 40 and then raise it to 60 and take them the rest of the way. No matter what, for this part of the operation, do not use any sort of an impact wrench. This is critical. Use a hand screwdriver. If you have a little torque wrench, like this is a 1/4 inch drive torque wrench that measures in inch-pounds, I would recommend using it. This is probably the most critical step of the installation because we do have to get this seal really good right here.
So here's my P.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
There's this one extra pinhole here.
Yeah, I
Everything
see
else
that.
is symmetrical.
yeah.
The pinhole needs to be on the P side. Ensure the P on the valve is aligned with the pinhole on the manifold.
So P would go on this way?
Yep.
Okay.
Now again, this is the most critical point. Be very careful when trying to start those screws. We don't want to tear up that aluminum down there at all. We want to make sure that we start them crisply.
I think we got it right on there.
Good job. At this point, the kit is somewhat of a DIY install here. Some folks have asked, well, why don't we install these before we send them out? Why doesn't Summit Hydraulics go ahead and do this install? And they could, but it would cost a lot more. So the trade-off right now is to say that we're trying to find a lowest cost solution, and in order to do that, we allow a DIY type install. If you guys are interested in having a professional install, having Summit and do the install for you, well, I mean, how much would you pay for that? I mean, for instance, you, Ryan, how much would you pay to have Summit do this part of the install for you and have all the hoses and already installed?
Well, I mean, I guess if you don't want to do it yourself, I mean, I don't know, $100 maybe, 50 to $100 to be able to have it all pre-manufactured, put together for you.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, other than the time that it's taking and just being delicate with this aluminum block and making sure you don't scratch it up or anything like that, I mean, it's really not a bad put together project. I mean,
Right. And it's relaxing too. I mean, you get to build something, and it does have the DIY aspect to it as well. But I suspect it would be $150 or more probably added to the cost for them to be able to do this install. So that's why we've at least chosen this for now. And if you would really be interested in that in the comments section, let us know. But I think it would cost a good bit to have these professionally installed. It would also cost more to ship because they would have to ship them in a larger box.
yes.
Right. So, but it is something worth considering. Maybe we should do in the future.
I agree. For those that don't want to take the time or they don't feel like maybe they have the skill to be able to do it, that would be an option for them. But I think a lot of people that got these machines, I mean, are pretty comfortable with being able to do something like this. I mean, it's using just standard hand tools. And it's just taking time, and like I said, you build something, you take pride in it when you get done.
Yeah,
That it's
exactly.
something that I did myself.
Exactly. Okay, you've got your valves on, and you've got them kind of hand tight. You're ready to
Torque them down.
torque them down. Now we need these number 10, which is big. 2 smaller ones and 2 bigger ones.
Okay.
The number 10 are the bigger ones. Okay?
Okay.
Now, you can get hung up in the numbers, but these are the only connectors that you've got that are going to fit in this hole.
Right.
Right? So use the jigsaw puzzle approach and put in the pieces that fit.
Makes sense.
I don't think there's any other pieces that'll fit in there. So I think you're going to be good on that.
It reminds you that here, these two together side by side are the same function.
Yeah, and you got 3 different colors, so that's the
Right.
way they intend them to go.
Yeah.
If you just had 2 different colors, you could put all of the lefts one color and all of the right, and then you would know your left versus right hose when you went to hook up an attachment. Okay, so the next step is to put these little brackets on, right? And so the easiest way for us to think about this is to go ahead and get this bracket, which they're going to be mounted to.
Okay.
Get it. So again, we look at our orientation. If we were standing upright, this would be the front of the tractor. This is where the ROPS is going to be, right? So
Okay.
the ROPS will be right here. So we need to put this right here. I don't know that we'll go ahead and put this on now. We'll probably but it's still nice to kind of get an orientation of where we're going.
So these L brackets need to come in here so they can line up.
Yeah, and then that should line up there, and I'll hold that one, see if the other one lines up for you.
Yep, lines up.
Okay, so that's what we're doing. What step number is that?
So this is step number 8 in the instructions.
Okay, so that's what it means. These are the 2 L brackets it's talking about, and these are the hex bolts. There are also lock washers here, and they are Allen heads.
Okay.
Now, I believe these are symmetrical, so I don't think it matters which.
Yeah, it looks like
Which
they're
way?
the same.
Yeah, that's the right orientation, right? So this is going to be the front of the tractor. So now we need those 2 L brackets.
Which are right here.
Yeah, and so I'll just kind of show you with one of them. It'll be connected right in there, see?
Okay.
And then let's see if that lines up with. Okay, so notice we have several sets of holes. This is for the 2 valve unit, the 3 valve unit, and the 4 valve unit.
Makes sense.
So then you should find 4 of these bolts, and there's 4 lock washers.
So moving on from here, it looks like we're getting ready to start installing that plate on the ROP.
Yeah, so we're going to put this on the ROPS, and then we'll mount what we've pre-assembled here
Yeah.
to this. So we're essentially done with the pre-assembly at this point. So we can take one last look at this thing. Double check that our hose connectors are at the bottom for the pressure and the tank lines. Double check that we're going to be on the outside here, the inside of the tractor here, this facing forward. This all looks good to me. So I think we're going to be ready to go. Okay, so you'll put this plate, the L part forward, the bottom part forward.
Like
This. Okay, so that's how it's going to go on.
Oh, okay.
And then you'll need those 2 backer plates.
They go on to here to here,
Yep,
and then that's when you thread the bolts through.
yep.
Okay.
So I'll hold it if you want to put a.
Couple in there. I got this one.
And then I think we want this mounted overall as low as we possibly can.
So before it gets into that bend.
Yeah, just above the bend. And go ahead and put
that's
the bottom one
ones.
in.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit tighter fit here on this older machine. These lights on the side are a little bit lower. If I recollect, they had, for backhoe machines, they had an extra bracket they would add to raise these lights. And so I suspect in the later generation, they just raised them on all the machines. Now, just to reiterate, I put this on the left side of the tractor because I want to turn around over my right side because that's where the controls are on the tractor. So when I'm looking at an attachment right behind me, it's turning, that's all I can do. When I look at an attachment right behind me, I don't want to see this big valve in the way. So that's why I chose to put it on the left side of the tractor. It means that the Power Beyond hoses have to be a little bit longer, but I thought it was the least intrusive way of mounting it on the machine. The tractor seat, and deciding where you would rather have your valve, whether you'd rather have your switches on this side or this side. because that's an option that you have,
So it's a personal preference on.
I guess. I almost wish I'd have made this a little longer, but I really felt like it was getting in the way if I made it much longer. So out or in, and it's going to be 2 inches higher than that, right?
I'd want it on the out.
Okay.
That way, yeah. Because I don't want to be hitting the switches when I'm putting my arm right here.
That's kinda what I thought.
Working the controls down here.
And you see why I wish I'd have made it a couple inches longer, but I thought it was getting in the way. So I was trying to be.
Yeah, and if you put it on the inside too, now I can't just reach down here. I'd have
Can't
to.
reach the
I'd have to.
three-point.
Yeah, I'd
That's
have to
exactly
run down
right.
through here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And
that's
it's
nice.
probably less important, but for somebody that has a tall cup,
Yeti?
My
Yeah,
Turbis
yeah.
or Yeti or something. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
But I think
Okay.
that height is good
Okay.
to be able to go over and
Okay.
do that.
I'll try to hold it right here and
maybe enough to hold it still now.
okay, let's put the bolts in from this side to start.
Okay.
At least the top two. Almost perfect fit.
There we go.
Yeah, I
Just
think it
right.
might be best to put the bolts in before
Putting the
even getting it close up here.
so the end of the hose with the male end of the adapter going to the female end of the hose, C-fitting below attached.
Male end of the adapter going to the female
Yep.
of the hose.
And then on the same hose, it wants us to attach a 90-degree 3/8 male to number 8 male.
Okay, we've got two different length hoses. Did it tell you which hose to use?
Nope, it just says on one of the hydraulic hoses.
Because they're a different length for a reason.
It says on the other one, male adapter into the other end of the hose, attach the female quick coupler to the O-ring. For this is the hose that's going to be the ground-facing female on the Power Beyond. So it's the top. This is the hose that's going to connect onto the top hose. There you go.
So that would be this one.
So the shorter one's the one that goes to the top.
Yeah, that's the way I intended it. And then probably one of these. And then probably this. Now I'm not reading the directions, so but this is what makes sense to me. It's always hard sometimes. It's sometimes hard to really put stuff on
It
a
is.
written page and translate. But this was the way I had in mind that this thing would look, right? Because what's going on here is that the Power Beyond is plugged into itself, right?
So it keeps that complete circuit.
Yeah, and so what you're going to do is you're going to take the female Power Beyond and
Plug it in
and
there.
plug it in, and the male one into here.
Yeah.
So you want to have, you want to fit up with those.
That makes
Then we
sense.
should have two more elbows, right? One on both on the other end here,
Yeah.
and then that's where it's going to go under the tractor or under the block that you put up.
Okay.
This is the mounting approach for the new Power Beyond approach, right? And so when we work with Kirk's, it's going to be different.
Okay.
But this is the way it's going to fit on yours.
Got one shorter and one longer.
One shorter and one longer. Now the first thing I want to say to you, Kirk, is that these hoses aren't made for your exact solution. They're made for Ryan's solution.
Okay.
When I sized these hoses, I did it for the new Power Beyond kit. And so it'll be a little bit of an adventure for us. I think we're actually going to end up using one less elbow potentially.
Okay.
That was kind of my thinking when I did this, because I had the older before, and I thought, I believe we'll be able to make this work. So the hoses, if anything, will be too long for you.
Okay.
Now the part that I am comfortable with is that we're going to need two elbows here. I think we were probably supposed to do this in the pre-install stage or the the initial setup,
Okay.
and put these at the bottom.
So I've got 3 of one size and 1 of a larger size, is that right?
Yeah, so I want 2 of the smaller
Smaller.
size,
Okay.
right? And we'll probably want to put those up into the body first, right? Into the
Okay.
aluminum body, and then put these hoses onto them.
Gotcha. Let's see. We want those oriented pretty straight like that?
Yes. Kirk, this is a little bit of just trying to figure out how this best fits. Now, the way we had this installed was so that we could make this regular curl around. This is the way the tractors shipped. That's the way they intended them to be. But we have flexibility. We could put that elbow any way we want it.
Right.
And we have 2 hoses that are 2 different lengths. So you can hold those up there, sort of like they're going to be connected, right? And then one of them is going to have to be connected to this, and the other one has to go to here. I guess
Looks like the longest
it looks
one.
to me like the longest one ought to just have a single elbow on it and the male fitting.
Right.
And that means it's going to have to be the pressure side up there.
Okay.
So
Makes
you can
sense.
go ahead and put the longest one on the pressure side. I believe that was the front side. Oh, is that the P side?
Yes, that says P.
Okay, it's the back one then. This was the proposal here. So we're using the longest hose on the pressure side. We would be connecting it in there. It's a little bit long, I recognize that, but it might, you know, we might be able to get it tucked in there. It actually might work okay, because we could go right up along there and then zip tie right down there.
I think that looks fine.
Okay, so let's kind of leave that alone. And let's put this on the, they call it the tank line. It's really the return. This doesn't go directly to the tank. In fact, this goes to the 3-point hitch and some other stuff downstream. There's been some other folks talk about using other valves to hook directly to the Power Beyond. You have to be very careful. A lot of valves don't support back pressure. In this case, this is not a direct return to tank. So anytime you operate the 3-point hitch, it will exert back pressure on the valve. And so a lot of these monoblock valves that you see, and I don't know much of the details, but a lot of them do not support pressure on their downstream side. These valves do, and that's why this works. We've got a couple of choices here. We can go straight into it.
Okay.
Right, so we could plug that straight in here. That looks wonderful, doesn't it? So what we could also do is rotate this all the way around here maybe.
Yes.
We would have, again, way too much hose.
There's nothing about the 3-point hitch movement that would interfere with this coming this way, I don't guess.
Well, there's a good point. It might be a problem. We could go upward a little bit more. We could probably go back here with it. You know, if we left this alone just like this, we could go back here and you could connect it. See how that looks. The hose is just a little bit too long for this solution. I grasp that. But we don't really have, I mean, obviously you can get a shorter hose.
Right.
I don't believe we can connect directly there because that's a different type of connector.
Okay. If this were, just thinking out loud, if this were turned down, that would make this overall apparatus longer, which would, you know.
We have to have a little care here because our rear wheel is going to be
Right.
in here at some point. It's not going to be a problem where it is right here, I don't believe, because that's where it normally resides. But if it went way down, it might be.
Sure.
This is the sway bar, anti-sway. So there will be material here. We wouldn't have to use an elbow over there.
Oh, yeah.
Just come straight up into it.
We could come straight up into that, and then that might allow us to go across here
More flat.
on flat. We can try that.
Okay.
You want to try that? It's not perfect, I admit it. We just didn't think we could make separate hose solutions for every situation.
Well, and even with the idea of maybe mounting this block somewhere else too, some people may not like the placement here. It's going to make a difference.
That's not too bad.
No, that's not.
I mean, that might be bearable for right now.
Yeah, put plenty of zip ties in there.
So this illustrates the kind of flexibility we've got. I think we've got several elbows included. You can use elbows or straight fittings to try to help out your unique mounting situation. But this is sort of workable right here. It's not as nice as it was on the newer machine, although that's actually pretty compact.
Don't brag on it too much. I may need a reason to trade for a newer machine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's don't forget to tighten all those.
Yes.
And that would be some of the stuff on this end as well.
Right.
This Y cable here, they've got at least bundled, so I'm assuming, you know, one for one valve,
Yep.
one for the other.
Hold them up and you'll see the different links.
Okay, I do see that now. So I'm assuming the longer length has to go out here so that when we come in, it'll equal out when we go that way.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
two longer links go to the left and right side on the top valve.
Okay.
Hold it, that's a longer length when you're plugging in there.
Oh, so the longer links are,
Go to the top.
so they don't have them. See, when I looked at this, I just assumed that when they banded them together, that would be a control valve and that would be a control valve.
No,
But
it's
they're
not.
not.
It's
Okay.
not. And if you had a 3 or 4 valve, that would have been more obvious.
Okay.
I can see why the two long ones go to the top.
Okay.
And the two shorter ones go to the bottom.
As long as you put all of these on the same side, that should make all the switches work the same way.
They'll work the same way anyway, it wouldn't matter.
Okay.
But you would want to put all those on the same side. That's how it's gonna
Okay.
look the best, right?
Sure. I didn't know if swapping the wires would cause the toggle switches to function.
I don't believe so.
Okay. There are large slots here. Does that, so I guess you could have,
You've got that much flexibility.
okay. I'm thinking I'll just try to center it up on the, any idea the size of that? You have
3/8 and Nipex.
Yep.
3/8 and Nipex.
Yep, right there.
We ran our electrical connection all the way to the battery. Later versions of this kit are intended to run to the fuse block on the right side of the tractor, just in front of the steering wheel. To that end, an add a fuse or add a circuit connector is included to make that connection to the fuse block easy.
What a day, guys. It's been a long day. Now, some of you guys are seeing this video perhaps in a different order because in this particular episode, we're showing the Summit install, Summit hydraulic system install, but we've been here all day. We installed the Power Beyond first. That episode will be airing in a few days here, so be patient with us. But it has been a long day.
It has.
It has.
We're going back together now. We just got the electrical wiring finished. We will have a little bit more testing to make sure we don't have leaks, but I'm optimistic. I mean, with these O-ring fittings, I think we'll be fine on that. What do you think? What do you think of the solution?
I'm really impressed. I think it's going to be great for what I'm looking to do, and I like the flexibility, and I think it's a good product.
Ryan?
I think it's great. Make sure you take your time.
Yeah.
For the cost of this solution and what I'm going to gain from it, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we go back to enlist a buddy, because I think an extra set of hands or maybe two extra set of hands would be great. It's just one of those things that with the cost and the functionality that we're going to gain from it, it's going to be huge.
Yep. So this is the rear hydraulic solution at summit-hydraulicsolution.com/TTWT. You get a 5% discount if you use code TTWT, just like these guys did. It requires the Power Beyond solution. You can get that from greenpartstore.com/TTWT. Video on how to install that's coming up in just a few days. Guys, I've really enjoyed having you here.
It's been great.
Yeah, had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
It's been good. Been a good time. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on
Tractor Time with Tim.
Out there. That's really loud for a cat.
What is your problem here? Today you weren't messing with us all day.
I want some attention now.
Martha says, let me help you.